Welcome to Ready, Set, Sold with your host, Bryan Vogt. Are you wanting or even thinking about selling your house but don't know where to start? Good thing you found Ready, Set, Sold. And now, real estate broker, Bryan Vogt.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Ready, Set, Sold. I am your host, Bryan Vogt. How are you doing this fine Saturday? We have had, nothing unusual in the St. Louis Metro East area when it comes to weather. Meaning is that I think Tuesday there was a gigantic snowstorm, didn't last very long. And then all of a sudden it warms up and then it cools down. And that's just kind of the way it is in our neck of the woods. If you've been here like I have literally all my life, you kind of get used to it. I say kind of get used to it, but not 100%. With that said, though, kind of review a little bit what's going on with the market. The market is still smoking hot. It just is. The spring market is, we've been telling everybody, and I've said this on the program numerous times, if your agent hasn't contacted you, you might want to contact them, or you might want to look for another agent if they're not aware of what's going on with the market, because the spring market is going to be huge in O'Fallon, Collinsville, Edwardsville, near Skyforce Space, Muscuda, Belleville. I mean, the whole gamut, Columbia. I mean, the list goes on and on and on. So, again, if you're even thinking about selling, maybe you even did it, maybe you're on the market last year, maybe even the end of last year, November and December, I would definitely be talking to an agent and getting it back onto the market, because some amazing things are happening already, and they're going to be happening down the road. Let's also turn into how do you buy a house, and the number one thing is you need to have that credit score, that lender, professional lender. You need all those pieces together. And I always say this, 90-95% of the sellers are going to be buyers. It's very common. They sell their house, they're moving up, or they're moving down in the sense of a smaller house. But either way, they're going to need a lender. And so I'm very happy to have Deb Rust with me today from New American Funding. Deb, how you doing?
I'm doing wonderful, thank you. Thank you for having me.
You're welcome. Deb and her company, and Dave Hoey, also her, partners kind of in crime, and maybe crime's a bad word to use, but her partner that she's been working with for years. Dave could make it today, but Deb's going to be filling in, and she's got some great information. Simply the fact, my gosh, you've got 20 years plus in the business, and she knows her stuff. And so I wanted to bring her on to talk about a problem that's really kind of coming up that buyers need to be aware of, and that is, Deb, basically the credit scores.
Yeah, credit scores, we're seeing a lot, and I always try to keep what I talk about relevant, and so this is just kind of what I'm seeing in the last, couple months, and it's always a good refresher. So, like you said, I've been in the business 20 years. I started when I was 5, and credit scores are becoming more and more prevalent. There's more and more that goes into them. And I just want to kind of explain. You have a situation where buyers, get ready to pull the trigger. The market's hot. Houses are not staying, available for very long. They get in a bidding war with people, with other potential buyers. So it's really important to, be ready. When we pull credit, try to do the pre-qualification, that's not the best time to find out, just through lack of, looking at your credit or having pulled it to find out that you've got some work to do. So lenders, primarily all lenders, basically rely 100% on the credit score to determine what program would fit you. It's just a way that, they've determined that measures your dependability when it comes to paying the loan back. I don't agree with it 100% of the time, but that's what we have to go by. So, and now I'm finding, more and more that with the mortgage side of things getting, back on track and people becoming more lax, the subprime's coming back a little bit. The score is not only, whether you'll be approved or not approved, but it also can determine the sort of program you get, what kind of interest rate you get, and you want to make sure you're getting the best deal. If you have a situation where your score is 2 points away from getting, and this is, strictly as an example, this isn't, exact, But if you're 2 points away from being able to do a conventional loan versus an FHA loan, that's worth knowing. So that could save you a lot of money over the long term. So getting your credit pulled, having a lender tell you that you can't do it right now is probably one of the best things that can happen to you, because you can know exactly. And if you get a good lender like, myself, and there's other good lenders that can say, you're not ready right now, that's not the worst news on the planet. Here's what we can do and get you ready in the next couple months. So I think that spring and summer is going to be huge, and I want to get people ready for it. So I, kind of just wanted to explain what a FICO was. I know there's Credit Karma and other companies out there that will send you your credit score, so you can kind of keep an eye. That's not what lenders use. Lenders use a FICO score. It's a little bit different, just has a lot more that goes into determining your actual score, and it's not something that everybody knows. So just kind of real quick, what is a FICO? Your FICO is a 3-digit score. It ranges between 300 and 850. Again, it reflects your willingness to repay, also known as your credit worthiness. Obviously, the lower your score, the riskier you are. The higher your score, the less risky you are. So a higher score can mean a lower rate, a better program, various things like that. So one of the things I always try to tell people is everyone's entitled to a free credit report annually. It doesn't cost you anything. The website's www.annualcreditreport.com. And one of the best things to do is just to look at that for any errors or accounts you don't recognize. There's identity thefts all the time. If you don't check your credit quarterly, at least, you wouldn't know if somebody bought a car on your behalf or a house on your behalf, or just opened a credit card, or credit reporting agencies make mistakes. Chase or Citibank could have reported a late payment, and you would never know unless you looked at it. So look at that. One of the things I always notice, and what I always try to tell people, your FICO takes a lot into account that's unrelated to debt. And it can be, if you change addresses, there's a lot of addresses reporting. People use, their parents' address still, or roommate from college, or, something to that effect. You want to get those addresses off your score, because anything that shows instability will affect your FICO score. It can be employment changes, address changes, various things like that, and people don't realize that. So it's really important to make sure that your report is up to date. And if any of the 3 repositories are reporting incorrectly, you just go online. It's a real quick fix. I never resided here, or I don't reside here. I've lived here for this many years. I've worked here. I've never worked here. And those are just really, really good things to keep your score, at its highest point.
Well, and I think, too, what I'm hearing you, too, and that's great information for people that are just kind of curious of where they're at and maybe starting the process. But I would think, though, really the gold standard is contacting someone like you at New American Funding and just finding out, what the scoop is. I mean, most times, as you mentioned, that maybe it's a month or 2 delayed, but again, you have a starting point. You know what you need to do some credit repairs. It's not the end of the world. But also the fact is that I would think that still the majority of people are probably having success. So it's kind of a win-win. It's what I'm hearing from you, Deb, is it's more informational based, because that's what we're really trying to do. Is you're trying to make the process as smooth and easy, which you guys do, as possible for the buyer. So there is no big surprises, because nobody wants that heartbreak. Sellers, agents, anybody.
Right, absolutely. And it's one of my favorite things to do, to sit with someone and go over their credit report. A typical, person, let's just say my age, your credit report is almost 40, 50 pages long. It's a thumbprint of what you've done since you turned 18 or became credit worthy. And I always hear people say, I've always paid my bills on time. I don't know what the problem is. Well, that is 30% of your total credit score, is paying your bills on time. You could have 50 credit cards completely maxed out and you pay them on time, and have a lower credit score than somebody who has 2 credit cards and has paid them routinely late for the last year. And that's just the reality of things. So it's very important to know, what factors play.
Well, and I think then, just to kind of follow up on that too, as I said, I think it's important that you choose your lender wisely, that they have that information, they have the experience like you guys do at New American Funding, and make sure that they get it right. Because, again, that's the last thing anybody wants to do. And the good news is we may be having some issues here. They can be easily repaired, or you have no issues at all. That's the other concern, too, is that we always have to be worried about, at least on us on the realtor side, is that people won't act because they have a fear of something, and it's not like that at all.
Right.
It's just not that way at all. I mean, you're not going to sit there and Deb, sit there and say, it's Judgment Day. It's a process of helping them through whatever they need to do to get where they need to go.
Absolutely.
Okay, I tell you what, we're running out of time in this segment, but we're going to be back with Deb Rust of New American Funding with some more great information on the lending side. You've been listening to Ready, Set, Sold with your host, Bryan Vogt. We'll see you in a few.